Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. I have another week of meals to share with you. I've kind of been messing around with some different ways of filming the cooking. Let me know if you like it. I try to not drag it out, but I also like to kind of have like the chatter in with it. I know there's a variety of ways of doing it and everyone has their preferences, but let me know what you think. This is a little bit longer of a video because I've already filmed and edited all of it. I'm just filming the intro now. So I don't know, I'm always kind of toying around with how long my videos should be. So overall, let me know what you think, but I'm excited because these recipes were all really good. I felt like we had a good week of eating. So let's get into this week of meals. So tonight we've got another quick and easy dinner. Right now, all I've got is 2 frozen chicken breasts. I put these in a greased baking dish. I'm going to cover it with foil and put it in the oven at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. Then I'm going to pull it out and put the seasoning and whatever I decide to put on it, and then back in the oven for another 15 minutes or until the chicken breasts are cooked. And then I think we're going to have salad and maybe mashed potatoes with this tonight. So, but I want to get this started and then I'm going to work on the mashed potatoes. All right, so it's been 20 minutes. As you can see, there's a lot of liquid and all like the fat that's kind of separated. So I'm just gonna clean this all up, scoop that out before we move on. All right, so now I'm just going to season with this Herb Amare, which is a seasoned sea salt, but it's really, really good. And then I'm going to put on some barbecue sauce, just because we decided that's what we were gonna do tonight. Then we're gonna pop this back in the oven. I am gonna stick a meat thermometer in so that I don't accidentally overcook it and dry it out. And we're gonna pop this back in the oven. I'm guessing another 15 minutes, but this way I don't accidentally dry out my chicken. All right, I boiled until the potatoes were tender, and now I'm just going to mash with I have a Pampered Chef tool. I absolutely love it. I've heard that there's other versions out there, although Pampered Chef, especially for like these tools and stuff, is really not that expensive. But anyways, I love it and use it. I'm using that to mash my potatoes. We don't necessarily need ours like whipped. We don't mind them a little bit with chunks in it, so this is plenty adequate. All right, so I added about 3 or 4 tablespoons of butter, and I'm just gonna put in a little bit of milk. I use almond milk just because that's what we have. I don't really follow a recipe with sour cream, or with sour cream. Not with that either. With mashed potatoes, because I do it differently. Sometimes I add cream cheese, sometimes I add sour cream, which is where my brain is at because I'm considering adding that. I'm just undecided. And I'll probably put in a little bit of salt, but not too much. I'll leave most of that to just be seasoned by the consumer. All right, so I am adding in some sour cream, maybe, I don't know, 1/4 cup. All this is gonna depend on how much you're making and what you like. Just gonna add in a little bit of this Herb Amare, or you can do salt and pepper, whatever you like. And that's it for the mashed potatoes. All right, it's beeping at me, so I took it out. All's good, dinner's ready to serve up. I had to call for reinforcements. Jesse normally makes the salads because he just does a better job at it, but he definitely does a better job at salad dressing. I always put on too much. So got some Italian dressing. Here is our salads, and we're gonna plate up the chicken and mashed potatoes. All right, here we have it. Fairly quick and easy dinner for tonight. Look at that juicy chicken. All right, so for tonight's dinner, we're gonna have some pan-fried burritos. I'm gonna go ahead and get the ground beef cooked up, and due to my limited number of pans, I'm gonna need to use this pan to fry up the burritos as well. So I'm gonna cook the meat and then wash the pan and come back, and I'm going to season the meat also with taco seasoning. I'm thinking of only using half of the meat and taking the other half out before I season it for another dinner this week. I'm not sure, but right now we're going to cook up our ground beef. Okay, so I took out about half of the meat, and I'm gonna just sprinkle in some taco seasoning. Obviously, that's gonna just depend on how many people you're making this for. With everything we're gonna add into it, I think a half a pound of meat will be fine, because I will probably have one burrito, my husband will have two. So I think this will be plenty with all the other stuff. Add in maybe a splash of water. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. And then I'm going to move this into another bowl so that I can wash this pan up and we can get to assembling the burritos. I'll let you know what we're putting in ours. All right, so we are going to assemble these. You can, of course, put whatever you want in them, but I'm going to start by putting cheese on the bottom. Maybe a little much. And there's never really too much cheese, but I like to put it on the top and the bottom. I've got a pan heating up to medium heat. I'm gonna put in some rice. I already had this on hand, left over from another meal, and it had been cooked with beef broth too, which is a nice addition, although not necessary. Now I'm gonna put in our taco meat, and then he's chopping up some lettuce and tomatoes now, but those will be on kind of on top or on the side. All right, so my pan is nice and hot. I'm gonna put in some avocado oil. You can use whatever. And we're gonna fold these up. Let's see if I can show you. Probably should have softened these a little bit in the fridge to prevent them, or in the microwave to prevent them from cracking, but we're gonna go with it. Fold it in the ends. See, it did crack a little bit, but everything's still tucked in. Place it seam side down. Pan's nice and hot, which is exactly what you want. Once it's golden brown like that, you just want to carefully flip it over. And I would recommend throwing your tortillas in the microwave on a plate in between like a damp paper towel to soften them, and that will prevent them from cracking. These got a little messy, but not too bad. I'm just gonna get both sides done. I would also recommend making sure your meat and your rice, and if you put beans or whatever you put in here, are warm first, just because they're not gonna really have time to get warm here because we're just really toasting up the tortilla. So that would be my recommendation here. All right, here are the pan-fried burritos. I just put my lettuce and tomato on the side along with some sour cream, and I sprinkled on some of this chili lime seasoning from Trader Joe's. I love that stuff. And that is dinner for tonight. For tonight's dinner, we're gonna be making a healthy beef ramen. I have shared this before. I absolutely love it. It's so quick and easy to throw together. When I made some ground beef the other day, we only used half that beef, and I separated it before I put the taco seasoning in, so I just am gonna use that for tonight. I'm gonna alter a little bit this time. Normally, I use 1 pound of ground beef and 4 packs of ramen noodles. We just use the noodles, not the seasoning, just the regular noodles. But, and the original recipe calls for 1 pound of ground beef and 2 packs. Sorry, I was not looking at the camera. 2 packs of noodles, but we've upped the noodles because we didn't like the ratio. So I'm gonna still do 3 packs with half a pound of noodles. I hope that makes sense. I'll have the original recipe linked down below. I also don't have apple cider vinegar, which I never do, so I normally just omit that from the sauce, but I'm gonna try putting in a little bit of red wine vinegar in there as well. And yeah, I'm not gonna use onion. I might use some dried minced onion, but I only like onion and stuff if it's really, really cooked, and I'm not gonna be able to do that, so. Anyways, let's get to cooking. All right, I've got some water coming to a boil slowly but surely for my ramen. I've got a pan heated up with some olive oil, and I'm just gonna use a bag of frozen broccoli, and we're gonna cook it this way. And I'll probably put in a little bit, it's getting loud, a little bit of minced onion, and get this all nice and tender. All right, we're gonna make this sauce. I always double it, and I am going to do that again, even though I'm using a little bit less meat. Maybe I won't use all of this, but I'm still gonna double it. But the original recipe, well, I thought I had it pulled up, is a 1/4 cup of soy sauce. I use these coconut aminos because there's no soy in it, and I really, really love the flavor of it. Totally worth it, in my opinion. 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. Again, that's the original recipe, so we're going to double that. Like I said, I'm just going to do a splash of of the red wine vinegar, since the recipe calls for the apple cider vinegar, and I think you actually need to use more of the red wine vinegar, but I don't want to mess up the sauce. So I'm just doing a tiny bit. And then 2 teaspoons of sriracha, but I'm going to do about 4 since we're doubling it. A clove of garlic minced, and then you can also add in some scallion, which I never have, so I never add that. And we're just going to mix this up. Over here, whoa, steam blast. Put the lid on to help it cook faster, and I think it worked. I also forgot that I like to add carrots, so I quickly chopped them up. I like to do the little skinny strips. When this is all cooked, I'm going to check it in just a second here. I will probably I'll probably use my kitchen shears to cut up the broccoli, just to make them a little bit smaller because these are a little bit big for this dish. And my water over here is boiling, so I'm going to get my noodles in there, and they only take a couple minutes. And I've started heating my meat up in the microwave, but I'll toss it in here to finish heating it up. All right, my pan got pretty hot, so I had to kind of do it quickly, but I just used my kitchen shears, chopped up the broccoli, dumped the meat in and the sauce. So I needed something to cool down the pot there, or the pan there. We're just gonna heat that through while the noodles finish cooking. They've got 1 minute left. All right, so I just took the noodles, and I didn't really strain them. I just kind of used the tongs to lift them out of the water and let them drip. Combine them in here, and Jesse also likes to put some water chestnuts on his. I always forget about it, or I probably would put some in here, but I don't really love them, but I don't hate them. But I don't think about it until it's time to serve them up. So that is dinner tonight. All right, so for tonight's dinner, we're gonna have a beef stroganoff in the slow cooker. And I've had this before, I've made it before. I'll have the original recipe linked down in the description box below for you, because I always do that, but also I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I've been kind of putting off making it because I just wasn't in the mood to do all of the steps. It's not a lot, but I don't feel like searing my meat in the pan first. So I'm not going to. I'm putting it straight in the slow cooker. It'll be just fine. So I'm skipping that, excuse me, I'm skipping that step, but let's go ahead and get it going. It is already almost 1 o'clock, and so I'm gonna do it on low for a little bit and then bump it up to high. But again, I will have everything, the original recipe linked for you, so you can follow the directions accordingly if you so choose. All right, we're gonna start by pouring out 2 cups of beef broth. The recipe calls for a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. I just have regular yellow mustard, so that's what we're going to do. I'm just kind of eyeballing that. And a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, which I'm also going to just kind of guess on there. And then a teaspoon each of dried thyme and of paprika. Gonna give that a good mix here. I'm using a fork, you could use a whisk. All right, I have my chuck roast in my crock pot here. I'm so nervous that my phone is not gonna stay in the holder and I'm gonna fall down in my crock pot. Because I did not sear this ahead of time, I'm going to I would have seasoned it in that process, but I'm gonna just season that with some salt, minced garlic. My jar is just about empty, so I'm gonna spare you the scraping noise. And the recipe calls for an onion, and once again, just don't feel like doing that. So I'm just gonna use some dried minced onion. I'm going to flip this over and do the same to the other side. I'm gonna try it a little bit over, there we go. And now we're going to just pour our liquid in here as well. And then, like I said, the recipe says this is for a 4-pound roast. I don't know that mine is a full 4 pounds. I do not have the weight on it because we buy our meat in bulk. Like we bought like a half of a cow, so they're individually packaged, but they're not weighed. But the recipe says on low heat for 8 hours, on high heat for 4. Probably need about 6 hours until we're gonna be eating. So I think I'm gonna put it on low. I think I'm gonna put it on low for 2 hours and then bump it up to high. All right, so I think it's been about 6 hours. I had it on, ooh, that just steamed my face. On low for the first like 2.5 hours, and then I put it up to high, just based on the time I needed. And I'm gonna check to see, oh yeah, that is nice and tender. So I have to very carefully, without splattering, take this out so I can shred up the meat, take the bone out, although the bone is pretty much already detached. It's all very tender, and get off any like big chunks of fat. So I'm gonna do that, and then I will be back with you. All right, I got my water boiling. I'm gonna put in, my bag is 12 ounces. It calls for 16 ounces of egg noodles, but I feel like I don't know. That seems like a lot. So, I don't know. I have a little bit of it in the bag here. I might put some of this in too. And you wanna cook it till just under being done, because then we're gonna add it to the crock pot. So I'm gonna cook mine for like 6 minutes. And I've got green beans on the stove as well. Here is all of the meat. I pulled that off the bone, trimmed off any of the fat. And now we're going to add our sour cream into here. We want a 1/2 cup of sour cream. All right, so I whisked my sour cream in. Now we're going to add our cooked and drained noodles. Trying carefully not to splatter. I'm going to just incorporate that a little bit. And I'm going to put our meat back in here and let that kind of go on high for about 10 minutes, just to kind of help it all marry together and get the meat back to being warm. And there it is, dinner for tonight. Smells good, can't wait to dive in. Okay, well, that is it for today's video. If you liked it, once again, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, because that helps me out so much. And if you are new, please consider subscribing before you leave so you don't miss out on my future videos. I love sharing this type of content, other lifestyle related videos. And also, like I said in the beginning, please let me know what you think of how I did this what's for dinner recipe video. That's it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.